So tonight was is going to be a little bit about that. So I spoke on it briefly. I threw a quick video out there in the group, and I was talking about this thing that I'm utilizing right here, which is my little black book, aka my blueprint to my success. And what I'm finding interesting as I started going through this, now mind you, this isn't necessarily like business in general. So this book doesn't tie directly into just my real estate business, but my life. So my life goals, where I'm going, and what I'm working on. Crazy part about it is, as I sat down to restructure a lot of the stuff that I'm doing on a daily basis, what I'm finding is building your life out is the same as building your business out. So if you can understand how to build a business, you can understand how to build a successful life for yourself. And that goes all the way down to understanding, we've spoken about core processes, and I set 4 core processes for my own life. And those are the things that I'm working on, and I'm picking one by one to fix, enhance, and make better. Now, in order to be able to do that, I had to take a step back and actually look at what some of my larger goals in life were and reverse engineer those all the way down to make sure everything that I'm writing in this book is keeping me in line and keeping me on that path to where it is that I'm looking to go. Now, when I've done my personal, I'm already looking, 50 years out. I don't recommend doing it. It's a very scary place to try to look at for most people. I know it was for myself. But where I'm going to start with you guys today is the 10 years, 10 years out. You can call it the someday goal. I call it the 10-year target. So I created a worksheet I'm going to share with you guys here in just a quick second. What I ended up doing is running through and having an example filled out to be able to show you guys so we can kind of run through it together. And then I have a copy for all of you. So the example that I use is going to be real estate specific today, um, not generalistic. So this example that I'm using is tailored towards building a buy and hold business. But you'll be able to see as we go through the motions and go through the steps how this will apply no matter what you're doing in real estate, whether you're wholesaling, fix and flipping, buy and hold, um, which I guess you can consider certain aspects of buy and hold, fix and flip as well. If you're going after burst strategies, doesn't really matter what you're doing. As long as you know where you're going, you can get there. So I'll go ahead and share screen here. All right. Now, is anybody familiar with SMART goals?
I think I seen something with the I guess the book Traction. I think it's called EO something. So similar to where you're like going having a 10-year goal and having a 1-year goal, but that 1-year goal is going to equal out to that 10-year goal, or even breaking it down further. So I think this is something similar to that you're teaching us.
Yeah, so if we're looking at like if you're looking at specifically breaking down the goals or having the different milestones for the goals, you're 100% correct. But when you're setting the goals, you'll hear this term if you haven't already. It gets thrown around a lot in the entrepreneurial space. The first time I ever heard it was actually by Tony Robbins, it was the first time I've ever heard of SMART goals, and he used it in his RPM, rapid planning method, which I've actually taken that and I've broken down and created a version of that I utilize as well. But when you're setting your goals, you want them to be smart. You want them to be specific. So you want to know exactly what it is that you're going after. You want it to be measurable. So you want to make sure that there's ways that you can track, along the way getting that goal. You want it to be achievable. So yes, we can set very big goals, and we call them pie in the sky. And this area can be a little debatable. Um, I've definitely debated with people on that when it comes to the achievable portion of setting a SMART goal. Because when you do work on yourself and you work on that development, both personal, professional, almost anything's achievable. Like you're not going to be able to become a plane, but almost anything's achievable if you really do put your everything into it, and you start making the right connections, and you just start doing what you have to do. Relatable. So when you break down your goals, you want to make sure that what you're breaking down is relatable to where you're going, and then timely. So timely is dictating those those points in time, the 10 years, the 5 years, the 3 years, the 1 year, the the monthly, the weekly. Now this sheet takes care of the relatable, and it takes care of the timely. So as you guys are going through this and doing this on your own, you're going to be thinking about specifics. You're going to be thinking about measurable. How can you break this down? And you're going to be thinking about the achievability of these goals. So your someday goal, aka the 10-year target, George, directly from EOS. This is going to be your big dream. So there's a lot of people that I've spoken to, and I asked them what their big picture goals are, and they never really look past maybe 5 years. They're like, I don't know, I became an entrepreneur because I want to be financially free. It's like, okay, well, what does that look like for you, and what does that mean for you? Is that you want to be financially free next year? You got a lot of work to catch up with. Um, but in order of making it timely, I try to get people to take a look at that big goal and basically set that as your 10-year. Like I have 10 years to get myself to the level where I'm financially free, and I'm doing the things that I want to do on a daily basis rather than things that I feel as though I have to. So that's exactly the example that was used on here. So someday goal, 10-year target is to be able to build out a portfolio of cash flowing rentals. This is going to generate financial freedom. It's going to form generational wealth. I'm going to be able to pass this down to my kid. Hopefully he doesn't mess it up and he's able to pass it down to his kids. Now let's break that down. Let's look at the measurables. What would that mean to me if this was my big dream? Or what would that look like, sorry, if this was my big dream? Well, in my version of success, that would mean that I would have to own, 100 plus stores. That would mean that I would have to be generating, an upwards of 50K plus a month in passive income. But it also means that I would have to have a business that's fully developed and it's systematized and can run without me involved in the day to day. Now that's the goal we're all shooting for. Now the first milestone that you'll set is going to be halfway there. It's going to be your midpoint milestone. When you're thinking about the midpoint milestone, you want to think about where you should be, where it relates to your 10-year goal. So if my 10-year goal is to own 100 plus stores, then I'm going to want to be to at least close to half of that as possible. Now remember, I have to make these smart as well. So is this realistic? And one of the things that I love about a lesson that I learned from Maxwell when it comes to goal setting and when it comes to timelines, if you're giving yourself a timeline, most people like to think that they can do it a lot faster than they really can. So if you're going to set something for, 5 years, that might actually be your 10-year goal. Give yourself some leeway. But if you're going to set yourself um, some really, really high expectations, the average person's going to come in just shy of that. Mm. So within our 5-year goal, this is where I'm looking at, like, I already have an established business. It's scalable at this point. So I'm still working in the business, but I'm not working at those lower level ends. I'm no longer double checking the analysis on deals. I'm no longer having to give feedback to wholesalers if that's one of my deal flow routes. I'm no longer having to jump on Zooms every single week to train people inside the business. So in order to be there, I have to make sure that the cash flow is going to be able to support the business and those people that are in there. In order to have that, I need, stronger management systems. I need direct reports, which means I need those higher level people in those higher level seats in my business. So the next portion of it, like trying to understand how many doors you're going to have there. You'll see I have doors versus properties in this example. I don't know if anybody remembers. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was talking about the team meeting that we had when we were setting our pie in the sky goals and our realistic goals. And I wrote them all down on note cards in front of me. And I looked at the difference in the low number and the high number. So the pie in the sky, I think it was, what was it? 150 doors was the low end, 250 was the high end. And then I looked at the realistic, and I think it was like 90 was the low end and 150 was the high end. So I had to stop and ask, like, okay, well, why is there such a difference between those two aside from, is this realistic or not? I ended up asking, obviously, the one gentleman on the team who had those lower numbers, what he considered to be doors. Because remember, we're going different exit strategies. So we're doing long-term rental, we're doing midterm rental, um, we're doing pad split, we're doing co-living. We've got a duplex in the portfolio. So it's like, what if that duplex was a pad split or a co-living? Are we considering that two doors? Or if it's 3 beds in each unit, are we considering that a six door? Because in technicality, it would be six different tenants. So now that kind of starts to reframe your mind a little bit when you start setting goals in doors versus properties. Strong property management system. Some of us are already working on that early on. Now, I broke down with some of you that are here on repeat. I broke down what the compartments are in our business. We have the marketing and strategic planning, we have operations, and then we have business relations. We already know that we have somebody extremely strong in marketing and strategic planning. We have somebody who's really strong and up and coming, and if I'm being honest, is going to surpass me when it comes to business relations. And I'm really excited to see him get there. So we've got that all set. Now that leaves the operational component within the business that we kind of have to focus on and worry about right now in the immediate. This is where we're, honing in on one at a time. That being said, first thing most people bring on is an operations manager. Now, it looks different for many people. bringing an operations manager on, we already have people that would work underneath the operations manager in the business, which means they're coming in as a direct report already. So they're coming in that manager state. Now it's up to us to get them into the leadership state. Deal flow. It's going to be extremely important. Might look different, a little bit different if you're buying properties than when you're wholesaling properties, but depending on how you actually handle the deals when you bring them in, I know there are a lot of things to consider. They don't tell you, I know a lot of people talk about when you buy a deal, you can get paid up front and you can get paid on the cash flow. And it's kind of boasted out there like that's the average. That's going to happen every single time. So if you just go buy 4 properties this month and have a $10,000 acquisitions fee, you're going to bring in, 40K into your business when you buy the deals and then monthly cash flow. Doesn't always work out that way. Um, Same thing I've explained before in the past as well. Like us buying our property, we ended up foregoing an acquisitions fee. We paid out the operations manager, but we completely forego that fee when we picked up that property. So we didn't bring in 10K with that property. So would it really be realistic to set 4 properties a month as where I need to be before I need to start scaling up the business, or should I bump that to 5? Now, again, multiple factors that kind of play into that as well. Real estate, if you're on the buying side, is a long game. Wholesaling, if you're in it for the longevity, if that's what you want to do, I don't knock the hustle. I personally don't like it, but I do know people that have been in it for a couple years and are very successful at it, and that's what they want to do for their business, and good on them. I see them making huge strides. The difference between them and most people that get into real estate and start wholesaling because they want to be a buyer is those wholesalers also understand that it's the long game. Definitely not a short game. They definitely don't tell you that when you get into it either. Oh, and then the last thing, on the note for the 5-year goal is if you're like us and you make the mistake immediately say I'm just going to buy nationwide, then you might be kind of stuck at a smaller amount of markets a little bit longer once you realize that you actually have to kind of tone that back a little bit and dial it in. So you're going to want to clearly state that in the goals. Again, I'm looking at my 5-year, I'm breaking that down into these. I'm making sure that that's bringing me closer to that 10-year. So if I already know that I'm not going to go nationwide and I'm going to start with 2 markets, I might want to be in 4 markets at my 5-year in my business. I'm going to take a quick second and see if anybody has any questions before I continue going.
Good to go, man. It makes sense. It's like, I guess in
We're
a
all
way,
good here.
sales, yeah, you're having the bigger picture, then you're getting it smaller, smaller, smaller to where at least you have a roadmap. That way,
Yeah.
once you have it all set, then you'll have certain, like say milestones to check. Okay, a month from now, where are we at? And then obviously, I guess that's what you're gonna allude to. But yeah, it all makes sense. And we make it harder. But as far as the reverse engineering it's you have a clearer path and you have more confidence, and now you're doing more activities to get to that goal.
Oh, 100%. That's why I love SMART goals. It definitely can be a little overwhelming when you first get introduced to it and you're trying to think about setting your goals that way, but over time it starts to become a little bit easier and a little bit easier. Um, SMART goals actually pair really well with, and you guys may have heard different variations of this, but um, was it do it, delegate it, delete it? When you're looking at what you're doing on the day to day, um, all of this kind of helps you get the practice and get the reps in to where you get to that point. You know, you got your sustainable business. Now you're looking at the stuff you're doing every day. You're going back, reflecting. Oh, so important. Do it consistently. And now that you already understand, like I already know what's going to get me closer to my goals, it's going to be a lot easier to take a look at your day to day 3 months from now and realize what you can continue doing, what you need to delegate out, and what you just need to get rid of because it's not doing anything. So, started at the 10-year, started at our big goal, our pie in the sky. And then we came down to the 5 years, still a little bit big, can still be a little overwhelming. Now we're going to bring it down to a year. Now, trying to set your goals for a year can be overwhelming in a slightly different way. You know why? A year's not that much time,
Sometimes weeks go fast. So imagine a
yeah.
year.
And your mind's going to start to do one of two things to you. That's not enough time to be able to get that done. Some people might think a year's a long time. I know when I first started, like, oh, a year's a long time. I can definitely do a whole bunch of stuff. I didn't do a whole bunch of stuff in the first year. um, but that is the downside when you start from year 10 and you break it all down. Now that you're seeing the over picture, the overwhelming part becomes okay, 1 year is really not that long of a time. I promise you, you got it. So long as you're bringing it back and you're staying intentional to where you're going, you can do it. So now instead of looking at the 10, we're going to look at the 5 because the 5 is going to be our focus. We can kind of move 10 out of the way a little bit here. And our 1 year is what's going to inch us closer to the 5 year. You can break that down in fifth. You can try to get halfway to your 5 year in a year if you want to and you're dedicated and you can set yourself up correctly. Totally plausible. It was one of the questions that I ended up having as I was starting to go through the process too, and I wasn't sure if anybody else had asked. Turns out a lot of people have asked the same question. Well, what happens if I get to year 1 and I've already hit my 5 year mark? Well, bring your year 10 down to year 5, set a new 10 year. And bring 5 down to 1, vice versa. So as we're going through this again, we're breaking it down more and more. So we know that we want to get at least 25 properties by 5 years, steady in the portfolio. May look different. You might have done a couple flips here or there. You might have done some wholesales here and there, but I want my portfolio at 25 in 5 years, consistent cash flow. Things that I'm going to need to start doing this year to get to that is I want to acquire 6 to 10 properties. In order to do that, this is going to be the year that I have to set up efficient operations. This is the year that I have to focus on building out a reliable team, both partners and higher level people and higher level seats in my business. This is going to be the year that I'm really going to want to be doubling down on making connections with, property management companies if I'm buying properties out of my local market. This is the year that I'm really, really going to want to focus on private money lenders. Because again, it's a long game. So if you're going for relationships with them, you're going to want to be building really good relationships with people that you can continue to use over the years rather than a churn and burn, as well as wholesalers, as well as agents. This first year is going to be the year that you're going to want to build all those relationships and you're going to want to dial those relationships in. So now let's break it down a little bit more to your monthly. So now that we know that, now I'm building relationships. Well, I know by the end of this year, I need solid relationships. I need solid relationships with lenders, solid relationships with wholesalers, solid relationships with lenders. I'm going to need solid relationships with contractors, property management companies. Because remember, we can't, we're not going to do it alone. Well, what would be a good property management company? So it depends on what you're looking for. So this property that we have in Cleveland, we spoke to, I think it was like 4 or 5 different property management companies. And, you know, most people, when you're first starting out, you're going to try to get things as low cost as possible because you don't have a bunch of money and you don't have a bunch of money in your business to be blowing. We ended up actually going with the most expensive property management company out of the 4 or 5 that we spoke to. And the only reason is because we're not out in that market. We're not as familiar as we want to be in that market. We just happen to have a deal that was, a solid deal that we wanted to take down, start cash flowing as soon as possible, refinance out, and then move on. And we wanted to be hands off. We didn't want to deal with tenants calling us all hours of the night. So we went with the property management company that actually costed more than the other 3 or 4 because they were 24-hour support with the property. They also having a conversation with them and building that relationship, they were letting us know what zip codes to stay or yeah, what area codes in that area to stay away from. Sorry, give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, that's good. They were go ahead and grab number. Sorry, guys. Can you grab them a cup? Yeah. Thank you. This one? Yeah, they were letting us know what zip codes to stay away from. Um, what to look for. They were already telling us local contractors in the area to stay away from as well when we were trying to find more contractors. So again, a long-winded answer for it really depends on what you're looking for, and it also depends on the relationship that you can build with them. I always err on the side of relationship with everything that I do in business. I've I've told people before, and I have turned down really good deals because I didn't see that there could be a good relationship there. So I treat everything that way. Property management companies, um, contractors, wholesalers, lenders, but that's personally just me. All right. So now that we're going down to the monthly, this is where we're really going to start to deep dive a little bit. So like, okay, I know where I'm going in 10 years, broke down my halfway mark, broke down my yearly and where my business should be and where it needs to be to make sure that I'm aligned with that 10 years. Now I need to know what I'm going to be working on every single month for the next year. Some of these numbers, when we start getting down to this point, are a little generalistic because after all, doesn't matter if you're wholesaling or if you're buying properties, it's a numbers game. When I first started, it was like, oh, just if we can underwrite 10 deals a day, we're set. We just get, or not even underwrite. If we just get 10 deals in the inbox a day, we'll be set. We crush this. No, no. Bulk that number up, probably about by times 10 a day. But if you really want to laser in on it, you can set your goal is to get yourself to the point by that 1 year mark that you have 15 solid deals that you're analyzing a week. If you're going direct to seller and you're laser focused in on your marketing, or you have a marketing specialist like we have who can laser in for you, then you can aim for 5 offers going out a week or 5 offers going out a month, maybe 10 offers going out a month. Um, if I don't have somebody strong in the marketing department and I'm just throwing the offers out there, I'm going to 10x that. And I'm going to want to be throwing out, 50, 100, 150 offers a month. And hopefully, if I'm laser focused, just those metrics alone will get me one property to acquire a month. Research, researching the markets. It's always important. They tell you to start in your backyard. We're now working in our backyard on the buy and hold side, but we didn't necessarily start there. We also didn't do enough research to certain areas and saw what we actually had in the backyard. So these monthly and these weekly goals that you're setting, and then the things that you're going to be doing daily, these are going to be the things that can be slightly loose because this is all of the stuff that you're going to be reflecting and tailoring as you go. These are going to be the important steps to really start honing in and dialing in on what your metrics are going to look like. So, researching new and different markets. I remember my 5 year, I want to be in twice the amount of markets that I'm in. So I should probably start working on understanding that now so that I'm ready to make that jump when I'm there. Implementing your marketing strategies. The ironic part of bringing that up. Am I going to be doing inbound? Am I going to be doing outbound? What does the overall for that look like? Building rapport. Brokers, lenders, wholesalers. I remember that's still the same as my 1 year goal. So that's something that carried down because that's really important and pertinent to where I'm trying to go. If I'm expecting to purchase a property before my 1 year mark, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm already setting something up to make sure that I have management in place and I already know what I'm going to do when I have a property and I can start bringing tenants in. Now we can take this and now we can break it down into weekly. Here's my 7-day spurts. Here's what I need to be doing at the end of every single week. Analyzing 15 solid properties. Submitting those 2 or 3 offers. Follow up. Follow up is just as important if you're buying properties as it is when you're wholesaling properties. It's just as important as if you were an agent, just as important as if you're a lender. Weekly check-ins with property management, weekly check-ins with team members, partners, and people within the business. Now we're going to break it down once more, and we're going to turn it into smaller things that we're going to be able to do every single day for that 7 days each week. So these 2 are going to be the 2 that you're going to be tweaking the most as you go through this. But I don't have to worry about all the other clutter because I've already broken it down to this point. So if I want to get to where I want to be in 10 years, if I want to get to where I want to be in 5 and 1, if I want to get to where I want to be this month, then I need to break down things that I'm going to be doing every single day. Different term for this as well. There's a Dan Martell is the daily 5, the 5 daily non-negotiables. Is I don't remember exactly Maxwell's. I know it's the daily 5, but he says it in a different way. But these are literally 7 days a week. There's another worksheet that I had handed out, the momentum building worksheet. For that one, I had everybody pick one thing
We
for
talk about
this, and by
Power
wh-
Five.
what's that?
I said, you speaking of the Power Five?
The power of 5?
Yeah.
Oh, no, just it doesn't have to be 5, it could be 3 to 5. I was actually getting ready to
Okay.
say that too, like, you guys might not have this many things on your list, you guys might have more. 3 to 5 is the sweet spot when you get down to your daily. Up here, when you're thinking about your someday and your big goal, it's fine to have, 10 bullet points because by the time you get this, up here, you're going to have teams, you're going to have partnerships, you're going to have collaborations, and all of that is going to help you actually get there. That's what's going to help you maintain it when you do get there. But in order to get there, now I'm going to break down and I'm going to figure out what are the 3 to 5 things that I have to do every single day. Doesn't matter if it's a holiday, doesn't matter if I'm sick, doesn't matter if the wife's yelling at me all day, if, the kid's home from school because there's a snow day or school was canceled or anything. These are the things that they're must-dos and timely. You're going to want to add a timeline to them too. So I got to take these small, consistent steps. He never yells at me. Should have heard her before the Zoom. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, remember, one of the things is I want to be analyzing markets over the next couple months. So that way, there I know I can solidify 1 to 2 markets that I'm going to be strong in at my 1 year mark. So that might look like I need to spend a half an hour every single day doing some form of marketing research, whether that be looking at inventory for properties, whether that be looking at, what markets are wholesalers moving properties really fast, what markets are gentrifying, however you want to look at it. Everybody's due diligence and research is going to look a little different because their goals are going to be a little different. I need to make at least one connection every day. I remember setting it up this way, I'm selling myself a little short and I'm keeping these numbers low but maintainable. A lot of high performers might have lower numbers. If you're like me, I've got systems in sync. I've got the Align program that I'm launching, in a couple weeks here for that. I've got the real estate business. I've got my personal life, and even my personal goals. So when I'm doing my daily, it's not you know 2 or 3 things. My daily is more like a bulletin board of stuff. Um, but I've been able to do it in a way that I can pair tasks as well. So connections, that's an example of one of those pairing tasks. If I already know that I need to make connections every single day and I need to do that for each one of my businesses, then I'm probably going to block out 4 hours of my day tailored to connections. And then I'm going to split that between the three different things. But making those connections every day, give yourself a number. Is it one person? Is it 5 people? Improving your knowledge around financing, asset protection, and whether it be tax strategies or you might want to hire somebody. Maybe that's not a strong suit of yours. That's perfectly fine. But some of these you will have to understand if you want to get to the level of where you want to be the actual CEO or the COO in your business. And you want to get to the level of financial freedom in 10 years. You're going to have an understanding of this. So you can break it down and you can start it now. You can designate half an hour every single day. So if I'm doing this one individual business, I'm spending half an hour a day on market research. I'm spending, if I give myself 5 connections, I'll probably, depending on how long the conversation goes, I'll give myself 2 hours. If I'm improving my knowledge in anything financial or anything strategic, give myself another half an hour. Now I'm 2 hours, 3 hours out of my day going towards these dailies. One of the biggest things that I would urge everybody to do, doesn't matter what you're doing, is put yourself out there. Don't be like this guy and shy away from the camera and be bad at getting posts out there. Add that in there. Do that every single day. We're in a connecting in a relationship industry. The only way that you're going to find these people to connect with, the only way that you're going to find these people to put into your business, can't feel fear the beard. The only way that you're going to, find any of those connections is by putting yourself out there. You got to be visible. You got to be on social media. You got to be posting. You got to be going to events. You got to be going to meetups. Meetups wouldn't consider an everyday, maybe a monthly. But now that I know that, what's my right now action? What could any one of you guys do as soon as you get out of the Zoom? Well, I mean, if you're still over by California, you can still do it. But if you're on the East Coast, you might make a couple people mad this late. But there's a couple immediates going off of this list and what I know that needs to be done within the business. I can go find, a lender and reach out to them and establish a quick connection. I can do the same thing with a wholesaler. I can do the same thing analyzing a deal if that's what I'm doing. I can reach out to an agent. I can spend my half an hour researching anything financial or strategic that I need to know. You just got to start it. Now comes the reflection part. And I don't expect any of you guys to come back and tell me that you finished this entire worksheet tomorrow, because this might take some of you a couple days. This might take some people through the weekend. This might take some people an entire week to really put thought of this if you're trying to be as intentional as you should be. But now that you understand your roadmap and where you're going and what you're doing, this is the perfect time to reflect before you start taking that action. I used to go a little too hard on this first part, and I allowed that to be the basis of excuses on why I didn't do a lot of things for the first 2 years. But it's also healthy and important to know and understand what some of the obstacles are that you might face along the way. Because if you predetermine and you already understand some of those obstacles now, as you're reflecting on your weekly, as you're reflecting on your monthly, you already had in your mind, like, hey, I already figured that something like this might have happened, but now you're going to be at that point to where you're already thinking of things a little bit differently. And as we talked about last week, was where the decision making starts to become important, is you'll understand how to categorize not only the decisions but the obstacles. Is this a big obstacle? Is this medium? Is it small? It's a small obstacle. No problem. It's a breeze. Let me just go talk to Jim for about 10 minutes and I'm pretty sure we can get through this and move on. But if I were to look through this sheet, how I filled it out now, the one obstacle everybody faces, And the one thing that keeps people in analysis paralysis when they are doing marketing research is finding enough cash flowing properties in that market, especially if people are working there. Do you think the people in that competitive market that are taking deals down are concerned about that at all? No. Why should you be? Property management, because Fabian brought it up. See, I already knew. I already knew he was going to say that. But no, finding reliable property management if you're in a virtual market, it can be very difficult. One of the toughest lessons that we learned with this property, and we were fortunate enough to budget for it and make sure that one of the partners, and this is another reason why we scaled our markets down to making sure that we have somebody that we trust and we know if it's not us in the markets that we're buying. And we ended up, one of the Jim, one of the partners flew out to the property, and we're glad he did, because there ended up being things that came up that we were not aware of. And this was information we weren't told by the seller. This is information we were not told by the contractor that was working there. So it is a valid obstacle and it is a valid concern. But if you're able to build strong relationships and you're able to build trust, where does it become an obstacle? If you're self-performing, scaling and maintaining, good relationship with the tenants that you have in the properties can be an obstacle that you face if you're a buy and hold investor. If you go property management route, that's not necessarily going to be that big of an obstacle. If you're doing co-living or pad split, it still is kind of an obstacle, but that one's a little bit up in the air. Still trying to figure out pad split a little bit more. And even with them, I mean, property management comes with that. But that's just another thing that you have to have the right relationship with whoever it is that works with pad split in the market that you're in. Now you got to start asking yourself, how are you going to keep yourself accountable? Accountability is huge, not just for yourself, for your team, for your partners, for anybody else working in your business. Accountability is huge. You've got to understand early on how you're going to be able to keep yourself accountable, because if you can't keep yourself accountable, how are you going to help keep your team accountable? How are you and your partner going to help keep each other accountable? There's a couple things that you can do. Set targets. Make sure you're hitting those. Doing this sheet alone, you already set targets. And if you did it correctly, you've already broken it down to the metrics that you actually need to be hitting every single day. Track everything that you're doing. If you're not tracking the things that you're doing, if you don't have anywhere where you're marking down, I spoke to 5 people today. I had 2 really good conversations and I have 1 committed to lending on a deal. Can't hold yourself accountable if you don't know what's going on. Can't always do it yourself, but sometimes it's a little difficult if you're new in the business, you have a new partner, or Maybe it's a friend of yours that's been a friend for a very long time, but this is a new path for you guys within the business, and you've got new people coming in, and you can't utilize them for accountability in the beginning. Like this is something that you've got to work up into. Masterminds, accountability groups, go seek outside sources. They're huge. When you're comfortable with somebody, and this is one of those things, and Haley's a little different because Haley's Haley, but if you were to go into business with your spouse, you guys started a business tomorrow. You're like, all right, we're going to keep each other accountable to make sure we've already set everything up. We know where we're going. We know what we need to do every day. Now let's go hit it. I'm going to make sure you're doing what you're doing. You're going to make sure I'm doing what I'm doing. What typically happens when your accountability partner is either a best friend of yours for like 10, 15, 20 plus years or a spouse? Does anybody know? You guys are comfortable with each other. Now remember I said earlier, your dailies, you should be doing those every day, 7 days a week. Whether you're sick, whether you're tired, holiday, don't matter. Some time should be set. If I were to turn around and tell my wife I didn't do what I needed to do today for the business because I was sick, the general response is probably gonna be like, oh, that's okay. Go get rest. Now, I'm not saying you have to complete everything. That was in the momentum worksheet, but you do have to at least put a little bit of time every single day. If it was a best friend of mine or a spouse other than Haley, and I said, hey, I didn't do this, this, and this today because I'm just in a rut and I'm not feeling good. Oh, it's okay. Double up tomorrow, double down tomorrow. Well, double down's gonna double down's gonna double down's gonna double down. That or you're opening yourself up to a situation to where you can skip doing what you have to do every other day. Hell, if I go tell Haley I wasn't feeling good, so I didn't get something done, oof, I don't care. Get in front of your computer for a half an hour and at least get a majority of it done. But that's what accountability looks like. It also tells me that she cares. She cares about my vision. She cares about my goals. She cares about where we're going. She cares about what we're doing. Now, you don't have to give up family time or any of that. You still prioritize that. I got certain days, certain parts of the day on the schedule that are blocked out because I hang out with the little one or we all go do something together for a little while. So you can still prioritize family and still get these things done every single day. So who can support you? If you're a buy and hold business, who are the people that are going to be able to support you get to that 10-year goal? People at all different levels, mentors and coaches. I've already listed off two that I followed. One that I actively pay for. I also have a third that we paid for as well. I know a lot of people look for that one and done, but no, you'll start to learn as you really kind of start going through this and you really start getting into the weeds of it. You'll find yourself to where you're following multiple mentors, you're following multiple coaches, but same thing with wholesalers, same thing with agents, same thing with lenders. And we spoke about it, even, people within your business. So we spoke about my interview with the operations manager that wasn't like a formal interview. I spoke the same way with her as I do when I get on with lenders and when I get on with wholesalers. Here are my goals, here are where I want to go. What are your goals? Where do you want to go? How can we align on that? How can we do something together to align? How can I add value to you? And in turn, that person's going to add value to me. Some of the biggest pieces of support that you can get is through those relationships. And again, I bring up property managers and contractors as well. We have a contractor that's saving us from a disaster of a situation. We had a contractor that took Jim physically around the town to show him all these areas that the property management company told us to either stay away from or a green light just so that he can actually physically see it. These are all things that feed into our goals, where we're going and where we're headed. It doesn't seem like much when you're in the moment and you're like, oh, I'm just flying out to look at a property and I'm going to go spend 3 hours with this contractor just driving around town. But I'm going and physically seeing the town that I don't live in, that I'm actively investing in and understanding what's going on over there and where I'm going to buy the next property to put into my portfolio. So that way there now I'm at, you know, it would put you at 2 to the 6. It's another step towards that 5-year goal. Now, when you guys fill this out, I know there might be a couple people that have done vision boards. There might be people that don't do vision boards. I personally have never done one. I like sticky notes and cards. I got them for days, but I have all of this stuff written out that sits in front of me all the time. And a lot of times I'll sit there and flip through it. So I'm seeing where I'm going, what I'm doing. So if you're not into vision boards, when you fill this out, keep it right on your desktop so you can open it and take a look at it every day. If you like printing stuff out, once you fill it out, print it out, hang it up next to the computer, hang it up on the wall. And again, don't forget to reflect, and don't forget to tweak your day to day as you're going through the first year of building this, like really building this business out. Now, what I would love for you guys to do is anybody that's here, take the weekend, get this filled out, and then reach back out to me. And I'll have another sheet. Fun. I know, more sheets. But I'll have something put together so that you guys can do a business assessment on where you are in correlation with your goals. And then I'm freeing up no sheet, man. I'm gonna free up some of the time on my schedule, and I'm gonna start jumping on calls with people over these next couple weeks and going through business assessments and figuring out where you guys are compared to where you're looking to go. Did I leave anything off the table for anybody?
I would say no. I think it's all clear. I like I said, I was doing the EOS one, and I'm not gonna lie, I fell off like towards the last 2 quarters of last year, doing it every 3 months. And but it obviously, like you said, having it a 10 year and having all of it backtracked and just
Yeah,
having that either that monthly or the 3 month goal right there kind of helps you reflect and just I guess it correlates with what we've been told of if you write it, it's gonna come true. To our remember one of my main things was I'm not gonna cold call. I'm not gonna cold call. And I had a VA, and granted the deals weren't in, but I was able to work out different deals by JVing and being able to keep her in there and then just trying to slowly figure out, I got a VA, she's calling, but where's my bottleneck? But I am manifesting. I'm not gonna cold call, which I worked on, but obviously now it's moving to the next level. How can I become a better closer? I need to get on
right.
more closing calls.
Yeah. Dude, EOS, man, if you were following it for any point in time, I commend you for that. It's if man, there's rabbit holes upon rabbit holes that you can go down with EOS.
Right.
And I'm not even joking. So the first time that I really started getting introduced to it, now I'd been introduced to it a couple times. Like I read Rocket Fuel, um, uh, read Traction, and Christmas Eve I was up till was it 4 o'clock in the morning,
Uh
and I went through. Man, I was pulling. I can't, so many resources that are sitting saved on the laptop from
right.
EOS, and it's pretty intense.
Right.
So, and I don't think I've ever actually like explained to you, George, exactly what I have going on. So my passion project, I've spoken to everybody about real estate gets you comfortable, and then you have the passion project, which is where you really start to develop and go up.
Right.
And my passion project that I found over the last year, and what I've dedicated a lot of the last year over the last year in the back end is building something out that can take EOS and similar models
Mm-hmm.
and dial it in and make it easily digestible.
Right.
And I ended up creating a framework called Align.
Nice.
So that call that I was talking about, that sheet for the business assessment,
Uh-huh.
is actually one of the first things that gets done with that program, and I'm launching it a couple of weeks here. But that's what I've dedicated all of this time to, and it was to simplify the OS because even myself, who loves researching, loves going through all of this, was like, man, this is a lot, and there's a lot of like rabbit holes that you can go down, and there's a lot of areas that you can really easily and quickly get off track.
Right. And true. Because
Yeah,
obviously it's at the end of it, it's a sales pitch is traction. If you want to learn more, go to my website and pull up the sheet. And like you're
yeah,
saying, you have to figure out what are my core values. What does that mean? Or how do I set this up? And you can get lost, like you said, or get too in depth to where you don't need to really get that in depth. And like obviously having yourself do it, then it's a little bit easier if I have behind you and I'm kind of doing the same real estate world. It's just adapting smaller things, but at least I have a foundation to kind of fall back on.
no, 100%. It's I mean, if you like chaos like me, it's definitely fun, but I know, yeah, I could
Right.
have easily spent way more time than I wanted to actually like messing around in there, really, really dialing it in. In
Mhm.
fact, in order to become an EOS implementer, it takes an extremely long time actually to get certified. Like you have to go through, I think it's like 20 or 25 different interviews that you
Wow.
have to go through the process. Um, yeah, it's insane,
Cool.
but I
Cool.
find it fun, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like I said, it's just writing it down. At the end of the day, it is writing down your goals, writing down this, and like sharing, you're measuring it. Like, how are you measuring your results, or kind of learning on the back end, it is, if you have the numbers down, you're able to dictate where your bottleneck is at, and you're getting the emotions out of the way and just getting down to the nuts and bolts, and making that decision better. Or, if you want to improve, how can we make that improvement? Because it's not, get out of here, you suck, you're not hitting your numbers. Going back to what you said earlier about the emotional regulation.
The emotional regulation is really important. Yes. It's actually, the Align framework, and there's another reason why I tell you guys about all the inner workings of the business and everything. The Align framework that I developed is actively implemented even within our own business. So with the emotional regulation portion of it being extremely important, like you mentioned, George,
Mhm.
uh, one of the, and I mentioned it before, man, I've never been so proud of Jim to watch him like go through a whole shift
Mhm.
as as the business has been going through this whole process, and
Right.
from like where we were, months ago to where we are now. I'm seeing him make way better decisions. I'm seeing him make faster decisions. He's
Right.
a little less in touch with like the anger side of the emotion, and kind of like pulling back for a second, breathe. And I've had
Right.
a lot of really proud moments that I've seen within him over the last couple weeks going through this as well.
That's good. That's good. I've seen it myself too. Of like even him doing the I haven't attended the latest ones, the creative underwriting thing that he took a break on. I enjoyed it, and kind of seeing his passion in talking. And like, George, did I do too much? Like, no, bro, you did great. Because obviously, if you're confident in what you're saying, you can go for hours because you're doing it. So somebody else like me, like my wife tells me, babe, I can really tell when you're excited about something, and so I don't want to cut you off. But whoever's pertaining to that subject, they're gonna be just as in, oh man, this is what I needed, and so obviously it's gonna grasp them. And I don't know why I went, but yeah, just having the confidence of being in front of the camera, even though you're in a small box and you have little small boxes looking at you too. It is
No,
learning how to express what you're trying to explain.
100%. And it's cool too, because like I said, I'm gonna see my development, but I get to see all their development. I get to see your development.
True.
I'm gonna be, honored enough to have the chance to see, you know, a lot of the people that are in here now. And I know the recording of this is gonna end up going up. So people that are watching the recording, potentially have the honor to watch them,
True.
go through those changes and kind of build out to where they want to be, and how they can actually work at their full potential. Um, One of the biggest reasons that we have so much going on, we have Jim with the creative underwriting, we have me with systems and Align, and my big picture goal for where all of this is going to go is it's not to be like come out here and be like, oh yeah, guys, look at my badass team. It's like, hey guys, like if figuring this out and like understanding who to have in your circle,
Right.
who to be looking up to, um, who to be speaking with on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, um, who you're, who you're partnering with, who you have coming into the business, what resources are you sharing with other people? Um, you and I have had the pleasure of that, and where it's like, now I've had a conversation like, oh, George, I know he needs somebody in his business because he's trying to elevate. Hey, George, I had this conversation. Here you go. Like the ability to be able to do that
True.
that's the phenomenal part. And I just want to make sure that like everybody gets the chance to see what that looks like over on this side.
True.
So it's like you're not alone, and don't allow yourself to be alone.
Right.
Um, you can like the end goal, man. I And I can't wait for this to build out to be another one of those communities. It just full of go-getters, go-givers. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be awesome.
True. True.